Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Peyton if you're new here. If you are brand new, I'd love it if you would hit the subscribe button. Don't miss any of my videos moving forward. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for coming to hang out with me again. Today's video, we're gonna do a little Q&A because I feel like I get so many of the same question or similar types of questions on my Instagram, and I get them like DM'd to me all the time. I'm just going to put in a video because I feel like I can be more thorough this way anyways. I asked y'all to submit questions on my story this morning and I had an overwhelming response, and I just want to thank y'all so much for reaching out with your questions because it's really nice and like exciting to know that people have questions for me, and I love that a lot of y'all are bloggers and that you're really interested in getting into this space, and it just really makes me happy that y'all follow along with me, so thank you so much for doing so. So let's just go ahead and get in this video because I have so many questions and I don't want it to be like a million years long. I'm not gonna say anybody's name or like read exact questions because it's just gonna take forever. Also because I don't wanna mess anyone's name up, it's giving me anxiety like even trying to say people's names. First question, what did I major in college? So I went to Texas A&M University. I'm obsessed with A&M. I love going back for football games and all of that stuff. So in college at A&M, I majored in political science, and that was my plan. I mean, since I was 15 years old, I've always been really interested in politics and in law. And I graduated with a degree in political science with a minor in sociology. And it has nothing to do with what I do now. I realized in college that I loved political science, but I didn't think that it would be the right field for me. There's a lot of like behind the scenes things that the public doesn't see, and I much prefer just working for myself. I'm not a very competitive and aggressive person, so I think with politics you really do need to have that kind of like, I don't know, almost like animalistic competitive drive, and I just don't care. I don't have it. How did I get into blogging? So actually in the midst of college, like at the end of my sophomore year, I realized that I did not want to go into politics, and I'd always been interested in fashion, but living in Texas and growing up in like suburban areas of Texas and in Florida in my earlier years, I feel like people around me just kind of viewed the fashion world as like materialistic and dumb, which is like just fucked up. I mean, the fashion industry is the $1 trillion industry. It's very legitimate. I was thinking about applying for internships out in Los Angeles, and as a political science major from a big like engineering based school in Texas, I was like, oh my god, no one's gonna hire me. So I started a blog. I did not tell anyone I started a blog. I was really embarrassed because no one was really doing it at A&M, and I was afraid I was gonna get made fun of. I started it like one night. I had random inspiration of it, so I did it at like 3 a.m. one night on wordpress.com, just like chose a really easy theme and began writing about health and wellness. I wanted to have like an outlet online that I was like pushing traffic to. So I wanted to prove that I could use social media as a tool to push traffic to a website rather than to celebrate like myself and like my friends and like whatever we were doing. I really wanted to show that I was like able to use it as a tool because I felt that if people saw me doing that, then people would be more likely to hire me for an internship in a fashion position, because if you're working at a PR firm or if you're working at a brand, you're using social media to drive sales. You're using social media to drive people to a website to buy things. I wanted to show that I could do that, so I started a blog for that purpose. I ended up getting an internship at For Love and Lemons, which is still one of my favorite brands today. And it was a PR and social media internship. So I learned a lot about Instagram. I learned a lot about the behind the scenes of all of that. And it was so helpful. To answer the question that I usually get about how did I get that internship, I went on internships.com and I could see all the listings for like fashion internships in Los Angeles. And I just reached out to like 1 million people and sent my resume in. And I did reach out like months in advance because I wanted to make sure that I was like the first one to ask for that internship. Next question, how did I afford to move out to LA and blog out of college? I'm gonna be completely transparent here because I'm not at all embarrassed or like anything like that. My parents are fucking bomb and my grandparents are amazing as well. When I decided that I wanted to blog full-time, which was the midway through my senior year of college. So the timeline is like I started the blog, I got my internship my junior year, so I moved out to LA spring semester of my junior year of college, and I interned for 4 months and I did school credit, and then my lease for my apartment that I was renting was an 8-month lease, so I stayed out for the whole summer and I just put a lot of work into the blogging thing. Through my internship at For Love and Lemons, I saw bloggers kind of emerging. This was 3 years ago, so they're already pretty established here in Los Angeles, but I saw that they were like really making a good living out here, and I was like, I think I could do this. And once my internship ended, I just put a lot of effort into learning about blogging, and I had the time because my parents were helping me. So then I went back to college, and I finished my senior year, and like I got halfway through it, and I was like, wait a minute. I was still blogging in college, and I was like, shit, I really like this. Like, I really, really love it. And I remember calling my mom one night and being like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm seeing girls do it left and right. I know that I could do this if I really put my mind to it. And I actually started like crying on the phone. It just clicked. I just needed to do it. So my parents were nice enough after I graduated college to agree to help me out when I moved to LA. They know that I'm not gonna sit around and like just be like mooching off of my parents forever. I'm a very independent person, and I need to take care of myself. Like, I just feel the need for that. So it makes me really, really anxious if I'm not. I needed to come out here, and I needed to like hit the ground running and just get to work. So they agreed to help me. My grandparents agreed to help me as well, to pay whatever part of the rent that I could not pay. So I found an apartment with a couple of roommates that was very, very well priced for Los Angeles, and I just began working my ass off. I did some side gigs, some like freelance modeling type stuff, and I worked for a beverage company for a little bit, and slowly I started to gain a larger and larger income until about, I would say about 8 months in to my move to LA, I started making a full-time salary. So that was now about a year ago now. I started making a full-time salary, and it's grown since then even. It wasn't like I was out here living like this crazy fabulous lifestyle. Of course, I was getting invited to events and getting gifted stuff because as a blogger, that's what happens. So it looks really cool from the outside, but it's a lot of hustling. Because I didn't have to have a job, I probably worked in between like 16 to 18 hours a day. I wasn't really sleeping that much the first year that I lived out here, and I wasn't really going out that much. I would go out on the weekends sometimes, and even when I went out, it was kind of for the purpose of meeting people for the blog and doing all that stuff. So I get really intense about things, and I immerse myself in things with the help of my parents, and I'm not going to like sleep on how lucky that was, because that's not realistic for everybody. I don't think that you have to be a blogger full-time, or you have to have parents that will help you out or whatever. I think you can really make it, but you're just gonna have to really realize that it's not a fairy tale fantasy world where you're just gonna start blogging and making all this money. And you're gonna have to really spend a lot of time doing it, whether you have the financial backing or not. So I get a lot of shit from that online, because people are always like, oh my God, your parents, whatever, you're just like a little bratty, whatever. But the thing is, I know a lot of kids that come from similar backgrounds, and they don't do anything with it. They don't work their asses off. They stay, you know, relying on their parents for a long time. And I'm not trying to say like I'm the greatest ever or anything like that, but I definitely utilized my parents' help to the best that I could, because it would have been dumb of me not to. I also really did put in the time, and I put in the effort, and I spent a lot of time researching how to make money and figuring out what avenues made sense for me, and I just hustled my ass off. So if you want to talk shit about me living off my parents. All right, next was, I got a lot of questions about how I found my roommates. So when I moved out to Los Angeles, like I said, I'd previously lived in LA for an internship. So I had like a kind of a group of friends I would go out with, and one of the girls in that group I knew needed a new roommate. So I was like, all right, cool. That's one roommate down. Also, living in LA is very expensive. So a 3-bedroom apartment, I've noticed, is like the best for the money. So like it's nice, it's big, but like it's still 3 of you, so you're splitting it 3 ways. And at the time, Molly, my roommate right now, was moving out to LA because, so she was at school, Molly was at school at the University of Texas, which is like really close to A&M. And we had followed each other because we were 2 of like the very few people doing the blogging thing at our level at that time. Like we were really small. She and I both like knew the other one was gonna move out to LA eventually, and we had a lot of mutual friends. At some point we were just like, hey, I know you're probably gonna move out to LA. Are you looking for a roommate? Because, you know, whatever. And that's how it kind of started. But I would say if you're looking for a roommate, if you want to move out here, I would actually just like post on Facebook. I know it's like the old school way to do things, but I've posted so much on Facebook, and like for like random things like subleases or like Coachella tickets or whatever, and I've actually got a lot of response from that. So post on Facebook because you never know who's reading it. You never know if someone has a friend who's moving out or whatever. And also post on your Instagram story because why not? Next question I get a lot are what are my favorite places, spots, restaurants in Los Angeles. So I actually have a Los Angeles guide on my blog that I can link down below that I will change and I will update somewhat regularly. And then also on my Instagram, you can go to my Instagram page, and on my story highlights, I have one called Los Angeles, and it's just like a bunch of pictures and like location tags of some of my favorite places. So definitely check that out if you're looking to come here to visit. And like I said, I'll link that guide below too. All right, next question. This one says, I was wondering how can you grow your Instagram following and also engagement? Any tips, recommendations? I would say for Instagram, what I've noticed for my growth is working with brands and getting reposted by brands, and then also engaging with Instagram bloggers and influencers of my same size or maybe a little bit bigger. So commenting and like regularly following their lives and like genuine, like not fake interest, but like genuine interest in their lives. Getting a little crew, supporting other girls of your size. And then once you get to working with brands, I think that it's very smart to position yourself to be reposted by brands. In general tips though, I would say are consistency. I would be posting once a day, being consistent with your aesthetic. And that's really hard to like explain because everyone has a different aesthetic, and I wouldn't consider myself to have like a really strong Instagram aesthetic. I post a lot on the go. My aesthetic really is like just making sure that I have similar like crops on my photos. So I do a lot of stuff from like the mid thigh up to my head, like backgrounds with similar colors. So I usually don't have like a lot of like bright pinks or yellows or crazy like backgrounds. And I always use the same editing style. So I'll go into VSCO Cam, VSCO, and I edit with like the same formula basically. Adopt like a style that's yours. And it might take you a little while to figure out what that is, but just mess around with it, find what you like, mess around. You're not going to get it immediately, but you'll get there. And I think that's a big part of Instagram growth is consistency and aesthetic, as well as consistency in posting. You have to be really patient because when I first started out, it was a very, very slow growth, and it still feels like such a slow growth, but you do grow, in my opinion, exponentially. The bigger you get, the quicker it's going to be to grow. So be patient though, like be patient, it takes a while. I think if you're consistent and if you're working with brands that can repost you, you're at the point where you're working with brands and you're negotiating contracts, you're negotiating like details of your campaign, I would definitely try to like work in there somewhere that they have to repost you. That's what a lot of my friends have been doing lately, and I think it's genius. I haven't done it yet, but I'm definitely going to. So that's a tip if you're working with brands right now. What are some of the most challenging moments you deal with as a content creator? How do you keep things new and fresh all the time without losing your creative drive? You don't. I have like times when I'm just like blah, like whatever, I'm not really inspired by what I'm doing, and then I remember like, wait a minute, I'm my boss, like I get to fucking decide what I'm doing. And I try to say, okay, like what do I really want to do? Like if I don't like what I'm doing now, how do I stop and switch to something that I do want to do? Because like no one's stopping me from doing what I do want to do. It's your Instagram feed, you know what I mean? So like take a moment, step back from it, say like, what do I want from this? What do I, not only from your Instagram feed, but like what do you want to be as a person and as like a brand? I hate when they call people brands, but what do you want to represent? Like what are you trying to share with people on your Instagram? And that's what gives me a creative drive, is always returning to like my purpose, which is to like help people out. I want girls to come to my Instagram, watch my story and be like, oh, I got a healthy tip, or like, oh, I love this top, or like, today I really needed this quote, like that was great. That's what I want people to come to my Instagram for and to my blog for. So I think returning to some kind of like larger purpose and then having fun with it. Me and Claire, my photographer and roommate, we've gone through Pinterest and we've gone through Instagram and we found things that inspire us on there, and not copy them, but found inspiration. We're like, oh my God, cool. Like I like the way that they were positioned and holding this product. Like maybe we could do that, but in a different location somewhere else. And then once you do that and you get to that location and do that pose that you saw, you kind of start like getting more inspired and more creative and creating your own ideas, you know? So like, I think there's nothing wrong with sparking your own creativity through inspiration from other people. And I think like not putting pressure on yourself. So I keep saying like, take a step back, just like relax, breathe, and like go get fresh inspiration somewhere. Don't get so in your head that you forget that like everything that's going on in your head isn't like the only thing. You can find new inspiration. I think that's really important, to stay inspired. I check Pinterest every single day for mostly quotes because I love quotes. Also, as far as writing goes, I mean like returning to your purpose. Writing inspires me more than photography does, to be honest. So I really like reading a lot of good writing, and I like to make sure that my writing is really depicting my purpose. Even if it's a simple little post about my Coachella outfits, like I like to add my little style to it, and I like to have fun while I'm doing it. And I think when you take pressure off of yourself and return to your purpose, I think you just feel more free and more creative, and things start to flow again. But don't expect to always be creative and like on it. Like it's not gonna happen. Okay, so this one says, how do you beat bloat to always be bikini ready? I'm thin, but whenever I'm bloated, I look 20 pounds heavier. Story of my freaking life. I'm always bloated. I have such bad digestive issues. It's like if you're shooting swim for the first time, you're like, oh my God, I need to be skinny. I need to not eat. I need to do, you know, whatever. I need to like be tan. I need to do this. I need to shave, whatever. After you shoot swim for a while, you just are like, all right, fine. Like I'll be bloated, but I know that if I do this angle and put my hand right here, if I do whatever, I can like work with it. You don't take it so seriously. Like you don't need to look like the skinniest supermodel in every photo, but you can learn your angles. It's like some practical tips for bloat, I would say. If I'm shooting bikini, I drink a lot of water the day before, like a lot of water, and like before I go to sleep at night. I also take my little daily cleanse vitamins in the morning. And if I'm feeling extra bloated, I'll take an activated charcoal pill, and that really like helps me with the bloat scenario. But I'll also say like in the morning before I shoot bikini, it always feels good for me to like move around. Get a little jog in, do a little workout in the morning, because, and again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know what's right for your body. We could have different situations going on, but for me, that's what helps. Make sure that like I'm regular as far as like going to the bathroom, because it's the worst thing in the world to feel like you have like pregnant food baby while you're shooting swim. But again, I was doing that all weekend in Palm Springs, and at this point I'm just like, fuck it, like I'll just like angle myself a different way. But I will also say, I was talking to someone about this earlier, I weigh more than I have in the past probably a year and a half, but I'm in better shape than I've ever been in, because I put on a lot of muscle. I know that I'm like happy with the way that I look for the most part. Like I don't think that my body's perfect by any means, but I'm definitely like okay with it in photos. I'm like not super unhappy with the way that I look bloated either, which is like really insane to think about, because I've hated my body like for my whole life. So that's really nice. When do you feel like vlogging really took off for you? How are you able to grow your following? So I already answered the following question. And I feel like blogging really took off for you. I know I've been doing it full time, but it doesn't feel like there was a moment where it like took off. I'd say that I've steadily been growing and being more involved in like the scene, going to fashion weeks, going to Coachella, doing the things that draw eyes from not only followers but brands as well. Now is kind of where I feel like I'm hitting more of a sweet spot as I transition into YouTube, and as I like start to feel very comfortable in this space, I would say. Like I said, I've kind of gone away from my purpose and then returned to it, and there's like cycles that happens to you in. And this last cycle that I went through, when I kind of returned to my purpose, I felt so right and felt so calm. I don't know, it's a hard question to answer, because like you never really feel like it's taking off, because when you're behind the scenes, you're just like you just get up every morning and do everything that you can, and then go to sleep, and then get up every morning and do everything you can again. So it's not like you can really pinpoint those exact moments, and I feel like that's such a cliche, but I just really can't. Girl had like 4 questions. How do you work with showrooms? So the first showroom, this is something that a lot of people have asked too. The first showroom that ever reached out to me was a showroom here in LA. They let me pull products, so I borrowed it, and they gifted me some after I shot for them a couple times. They just reached out to me on Instagram. So I just kind of was doing my thing, trucking along, staying consistent, and then the showroom reached out to me, which of course back then I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, oh cool, like what is this? I was really confused. I started working with one that was kind of smaller, and then larger showrooms and brands started reaching out after that. Like I said, I have a lot of friends in the blogging world. If someone had a contact for a showroom that I really liked, I would ask for that contact. Not like savagely, like if it's your real friend, you can be like, hey, like who's your contact? Because if it's your real friend, they want you to be working with a showroom too, which is like a whole another thing. Oh, to go back to the most challenging moments you deal with as a content creator, I think there's one that really plagues all of us, especially when you have a group of blogger friends, like I was saying, is like comparison. And I've gone in and out of being like kind of down from comparing myself to others, especially, like I said, being surrounded by so many bloggers who we're all kind of like gaining success right now. I would say comparison is a really difficult thing to deal with. As cliche as it is, and this, at some point it just clicks with you that like no one's gonna be like you and you're not gonna be like anybody else, so like why even compare or try? Like, it can just be a real bummer. And I think that it's important to really, again, this is why I keep going back to your purpose. Like, you've got to stick to your purpose and know that if your purpose is like really inside of you and you know what you want and you know what you want to share with people and bring to the world, I think that you start getting really comfortable in yourself. You don't feel the need to compare yourself to another content creator. You know what I mean? Like you do your own thing. If someone's doing something that's getting more engagement than you, or they're getting better gigs than you, or they're, you know, whatever they're doing that's better than you, just keep your head down, keep your horse blinders on, and just work on what you know is right for you, and your time will come. I think my time hasn't necessarily come yet, but I think it's coming. I think I feel it. So even if you don't believe it in your own head, like really, and you have to just like mind fuck yourself into really believing in yourself, which I've mind fucked myself into like everything that I've done as far as confidence goes. Just focus on you, focus on what you're doing right, focus on your purpose and your presence, and be positive in your own mind, and just fake confidence in what you're doing, and you're actually going to start being really confident in what you're doing. Most favorite and least favorite thing about living in Los Angeles. So my most favorite thing about LA, opportunity. If I wake up in the morning and I want to get to work and I want to make some money and I want to take advantage of all the amazing people and the amazing contacts and the amazing like locations around here, I can. If you want to thrive here and you really, really want to work your ass off, this place works wonders. I feel the same about New York. LA seems a little bit more lax than New York. It's a little more chill, but if you utilize this city and you're here to work, it'll be amazing. You do need to stay patient, but if you're consistently up every day, up and at 'em, like ready to learn something new or meet someone new, or I think that you're really gonna thrive here. My least favorite thing about LA is by far the traffic. I fucking hate the traffic. It gives me so much anxiety. It's not gonna work for me. Oh, also the weather. The weather is really truly incredible here. I forget until it like rains for like one day out of the year, and I'm just like, oh my god, how could it possibly rain in Los Angeles? I can't believe it. This one is about reaching out to brands and PR companies when you are someone with, this one says a little over 1,000 followers. So she says, I want to reach out, but I don't know the general requirements as an influencer or even how to properly introduce myself. Can you guide me in this direction? So for me, like I said, the first PR showroom I ever worked with, they reached out to me. But since then, I feel like I've really noticed that you just don't get what you don't ask for. So if you know a PR firm that you really, really like, or a brand that you like, I would start with a small one or a small PR firm. I would say like reach out to them and be like, hey, I really like what you're doing. I appreciate this. I would love to work with you in some way, whether it be maybe when you're first starting for a discount on a product or a free product to promote before you start getting actually paid for product. But I would get like a few brand collaborations under your belt that way. Do know that, especially when I first started reaching out to companies, you're gonna get a lot of no's and a lot of non-answers. So don't let that like fuck you up in any way. Like it's just gonna happen, like expect it. If you go in expecting a lot of no's and a lot of rejection, you're gonna be fine. I still get rejected all the time, and I don't get answers because I'm not big enough, or I'm not like, you know, whatever. And I don't take that to heart. If a brand's not interested in working with someone of your following, just know that there's obviously room for you to grow, and you are growing, and it's not a reflection of like who you are as a person. Obviously, when you work in Instagram as a job, I think you quickly realize that it doesn't reflect who you are. It's a business. So if you're an influencer, you're providing a service, and you're a business, and you're at like a little mini page for people to go to who follow you to like get inspiration or get like a tip or something. It's not like people are going to your page and being like, well, I hate this person or whatever. Maybe they are, I don't know, they're fucking losers if they are, but don't feel bad about getting no's, so don't be afraid to reach out, you know? You don't get what you don't ask for, you know? I'm so afraid of my camera battery dying. This one says, what is a polite and professional way to ask about budget for a campaign to see if you can charge rather than just get gifting? So at this point, unless it's gonna be like a really awesome, like badass gifting product, or like I really like just die for the company, I don't do things with gifting anymore. And I don't think it's rude to ask if people have a budget, because you're doing this as your job, you're spending your time doing it. And especially if you're like, if you are looking at your analytics and you're saying like, hey, I'm selling this much stuff, or like, you know that you're pushing product, it is not rude to ask a brand for if they have a budget, because you know they're gonna make them money. They can't just like use you for nothing. Like, you can't just like be used. So don't get intimidated by brands. You are yourself a brand as well. And I would definitely try to price yourself at a price that you feel happy about, because you don't want to leave a collaboration feeling like you've been taken advantage of, which has happened to me like so many freaking times. It's something that I love to do. It's my job, but it's also like my life, and you don't want to feel bad walking away from a collaboration. So definitely ask about a budget, you know, and you can negotiate those types of things if they come back at you. Like, this is how it usually works for me. Or they tell me that they want to gift me something for an exchange for a post on Instagram. I have brands all the time that are like, can I give you this like tiny baby bracelet that we made for 15 cents? And can you give me 6 high-res professional images of it? And you're just like, are you on drugs right now? Like, are you insane? I just find it kind of rude. I usually respond to things like that, or just like normal gifting. Like if someone's asking for like a collaboration, we'll give you this dress, do a post. Most of the time, unless like I said, I live for this brand or it's really, really expensive and I do truly love it, I'll say like, hey, thank you so much for reaching out. This is amazing. I love the product. Right now I'm only working on sponsored campaigns, trying to narrow my focus, because that's another thing I like to do, not work with too many brands. So I do focus on the ones that are willing to pay me and be like good business partners and get me what I need to create content for them. So I'll say like, hey, yeah, I'm only focusing on paid collaborations because I feel that it helps me better create content, and I do this for a full-time living. So I explain it a little bit. And then I'm like, I have a media kit prepared if you'd like to see it. And if you have a budget for this campaign, I would love to talk more. And they'll come back and they'll be like, oh, no, we don't have a budget. And then I'll be like, oh, I can't do it. Or they could be like, hey, like, we don't have a huge budget, but it's this. And I'm like, all right, cool. So I'll try to negotiate. I'll be like, okay, well, this is less than what I charge for an Instagram if they come back with less. So we could work something out where I can post you in this Instagram, but it's not going to be an exclusive Instagram for only your brand. I'm going to tag other brands too, because that way, if you have 2 brands that want to do that, you can like do them both at the same time and make what you would be making or even more on one Instagram. Pro tip. I don't think you should ever feel weird about asking for a budget. I feel like I started charging for things at 10,000 followers because I was just like, okay, I know I'm making money for you. I was looking at my analytics through a company called Reward Style. I was looking at my Google Analytics, and I was seeing that I was definitely turning readers into customers for brands. And then that's when I was like, you're gonna pay me now, because like I see how much money I'm making you. So this one is about how do you partner with brands for trips? Do you reach out to them with the idea and see if they want to be involved and charge them based on their involvement, or do they pitch the idea and compensation to you? So only recently have I had a brand reach out and be like, hey, we want to send you on this trip and we want you to shoot for us. So that's kind of a new thing for me, but usually, like for example, for Miami, I went there two months ago now. Me and my best blogger friend Kristen decided we wanted to go to Miami. We wanted to create a trip on the least amount of money possible so it'd be easier to make a profit. So we looked at all the flights on an app called Hopper. We bought like the cheapest flights we could. Then we reached out to some hotels, and at the time there was some kind of festival there, so they weren't really like crazy about giving us a room. So we stayed at one of like my uncle's apartment that he was not in. That didn't cost any money. So then we had Claire, my roommate and photographer, come as well. So we had a photographer on board who was also like one of our best friends. And then we went to brands that we've already worked with, just regular repeat brands that I work with. And we were like, hey, we're going to Miami. It's both of us, so we could do a collaboration together or just, you know, separately. We have a photographer there, so we'll do some high-res imagery if you'd like to be involved. And you get, again, a lot of no's and some yeses. Luckily for me, I already had something booked with ASOS, and that was really nice, and it fell within the dates of Miami, and it was a swim thing, and it was amazing. So we got to use that to help like make money for that trip. And so basically, to answer your question, I do reach out to brands a lot. Only recently have I had brands reach out for like weekend getaways and like trips to wherever. Me and my friends now are just now hitting that point where people are starting to like take us seriously. But before, we were creating trips ourselves, and it's a lot of back end work, I will say, and you do get a lot of no's, but they're really, really fun. I think that it's worth it and it's almost like an investment. All right, lastly, I thought this question was kind of funny because I've actually gotten a couple of these questions before. And it is, how do you avoid fuckboys? What a good question to answer at the very end. I would say I avoid fuckboys by just like not hanging out with them. I don't know. I don't really have a lot of time at this point. I don't really give my time to people that much unless they're my like really good friends. Like in college, I kind of like talked to guys that were a little bit more fuckboyish and it was like fun and exciting and all of that stuff. But then I was with a guy that was like the opposite of a fuckboy and he was like the best human being on planet Earth, like literally the best human on planet Earth. He was really hot, he was really great, like everything you could be good at and like perfect at, he was. I think once you experience like being respected and being like with someone who's like really like a man, then you're just like, you can't ever go back. So you can hang out, like I like, you know, the fuckboys are fun. You can go like on dates or you go out for drinks or like you go out with your friends in a big group with them and they're fun and they're charming, they're exciting. But like to me, I'm just not attracted to that anymore. Masculinity to me is someone who's like really honest and like steady and really trustworthy and dependable, and so I find those qualities really attractive. So like I said, fuckboys are really fun, like guys that are charming and say all the right things and do all the right things and are kind of schemy and liars. It's exciting, but I just like don't find it attractive. Like that does not make me want to have sex with you, like at all. I think that the way I stay through fuckboys is I just don't fuck around with fuckboys. And honestly too, I had to come to terms for this too, because when I was dealing with guys in college that were like less than ideal, I was realizing that I was being like a fuck girl, you know? So like, don't be a fuck girl if you don't want to deal with fuck boys. Like, don't be like one of those people that just gets like overly emotional and like jumps to conclusions and like goes crazy and like acts like a psycho and like gets drunk and yells at people for no reason. Like that's fuck girl moves. And if you're doing that, then you're just gonna attract a fuck boy. You know what I mean? Like someone equally as insane doing that. Like, so be confident in yourself. Don't like settle for less than what you are. But if you want to make like, you know, you want to make out with a fuck boy, like do it. Everyone needs to have that time in their life. Don't expect to get something out of the fuckboy situation. Like just know what you're getting yourself into when you're getting in there and don't expect like you're gonna change someone or something. At this point, I'm 24 years old. I'm not super old, but I'm just like, they just bore me. I'm like, I've seen this whole song and dance before. I just know what you're doing. Like, I'm not gonna give like my actual real time during the week or like one-on-one to a fuckboy. All fun and games and it's light. Do the fuckboy thing, girl. Be a fuck girl if you want to. You know, let's be realistic. You know what's gonna happen when you get involved with a fuckboy. Don't be surprised when he's like a dick to you. Like you knew that was gonna happen. Just be aware of it. Alright guys, that is it for my Q&A. If I didn't get to your question, I'm so sorry. I will do it next time. Just DM me again and just like make a little note of it and I'm gonna screenshot them all on my phone, but my camera is dying and I gotta go. So if you liked today's Q&A, please give this video a thumbs up and remember to subscribe if you're like into the vibe over here. And if you want to as well, you can follow me on Instagram at Peyton Sarton. So again, thank y'all so much for watching. I hope that I answered your question and I hope that y'all enjoyed my answers and I hope that you found them very helpful, and I am here for those always, always, always. So never hesitate to reach out to me. And again, I'm so sorry my eyes have been everywhere. I'm like checking the light, checking the battery, checking everything. But again, thank y'all so much and I will see y'all next time.